Hi everyone, it's Sean from What Up, and welcome back to another video. Now, we're going to talk tonight about that Entertainment Weekly article that came out early this morning. Now, when I say early this morning, it officially didn't drop until much later in the afternoon, but it was leaked a bit early. And then the digital editions were available. So, I mean, the release of it was a little bit of a kerfuffle, but it had some really, really cool stuff in it. It was very, very amazing. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff today. We're going to talk about the pictures, the article itself, but I mean, realistically, we're all here for the pictures. We're going to talk about them, and I'm going to dissect them right down to the tiniest detail because there is a lot to unpack in just a few images. Because, I mean, let's face it, we haven't seen a whole lot officially from the production team, but this is a whole bunch all at once for us. So I'm very excited to dive into these pictures. So stay tuned at the end of this video because we're going to talk about my 10,000 subscriber contest that's going on, and we're going to talk about my Patreon. Yes, my Patreon is live now. If you want to support us here at the channel, please click the link down below in the description box. Go to the Patreon and choose one of the 4 tiers and get some cool What Up swag. Yes, I'm going to send you some stuff just for subscribing to my Patreon. It's very, very neat. I'm very excited about it, and I'm hoping it'll help the channel grow, which is fantastic. Now, before we get into the video, spoiler warning. In this video, I'll be talking about images in the Entertainment Weekly article. So if you don't want anything spoiled about the first season of The Wheel of Time, be forewarned, I'm going to talk about those images, and it's going to spoil up to at least episode 6. Also, if you haven't read the first book of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series, that's The Eye of the World, be forewarned, I will talk about major plot points and character arcs within that novel, so it'll probably ruin the whole book for you. Alright, with that being said, let's get on to the video. Alright, so this is the first photo we want to talk about here today. It is the Emond's Field 5, Moraine and Land in the field, and they all have the extreme look of determination on their faces walking towards something, and it is glorious. We get a really good look at their costumes, a really good look at each of the actors and actresses in character, and it is fantastic. I couldn't be happier with it. What we'll do is we'll talk a bit about the photo as a whole, and then I want to break it down and talk about each individual character. So, the first thing I want to discuss is the metadata. Now, each one of these photos came with some metadata that describes the scene or a little bit about the photo. Now, there's been some arguments, I want to say, or some discussion on the fact that some of the metadata may be wrong, but I'm going to go with that it's probably right, and the person that put these photos together probably knows which scenes that they're talking about. So, the metadata for this one, the title headline. Wheel of Time, Season 1, Episode 6, Exterior Meadow, Waygate. Moraine arrives at the Waygate, met by Loyal and all the other. Who is the dragon? Now, we're talking Season 1, Episode 6, which, if they're going to see a Waygate, it makes total sense. Now, the Waygate is what they use to travel to Faldera very quickly so they can go into the Blight and go to the Eye of the World. Now, in the book, we all know that the Waygate was in a basement in Camelin, but for quite some time now, we have all known as a fandom that the Waygate is in a big open field because there were a ton of leaked pictures. Now, if you don't know, or if you haven't known, or if you're new to the channel and you didn't know any of these things, I have done videos on this, so you just take a look back through my other videos. You'll see one on a Waygate, and I talk extensively about the photos that a family took while they're on vacation of that particular Waygate. So this metadata saying that it's in Episode 6 makes complete sense because we're pretty sure that Episodes 7 and 8 center around Faldera, the Blight, and the Eye of the World because we've, had a bunch of leaked set pictures from Episodes 7 and 8, and they all seem to center around either the Blight or Faldera, and they're really very cool. So again, I did do a video on those pictures if you want to check those out too. Alright, now let's get on to dissecting each individual character. Alright, so we're going to talk about each of the cast here just a little bit. I want to spend too much time on all of them because we've seen the pictures, but they're glorious. I mean, the first thing I'll say about the Emond's Field 5 costumes is they all look homemade. And they should look homemade because, I mean, they live in a farming village out in the middle of nowhere. They're going to make their own clothes or have them made for them, and it shows, and oh man, there's nothing assembly line-esque about any of these costumes. I mean, they're glorious. I love them. They all look individually made, and the costume designers did a fantastic job as far as I'm concerned. Now, this is Nynaeve, played by Zoe Robbins, and you see that big, intricate braid there, which is a signature of Nynaeve's, along with that stout, good Two Rivers wool, which is, if it's good enough for her, it's good enough for anyone else. And I mean, the character is just beautiful. Now, that braid, I can't get over it. It's absolutely awesome, and it is one of the things that we will see her grip when she's angry and tug on when she's angry, but probably not as many braid tugs as we get in the book series because that's all she'd be doing on screen, but I bet you we'll get a few of them at opportune times just for fan service, and it'll be really cool. Next character here is Matt Cawthon, played by Barney Harris, and I mean, He embodies the character. Look at this costume. It's thrown together, it's worn, it's patched, it's dirty, it's thin. It's not really, it doesn't really go together. He just threw on whatever he had available to him, which is totally matte. He is mischievous, but he doesn't really care what he looks like, at least yet, in the book series and in the show. And I love this. I love the way it looks. And look at the boots. Every one of these boots looks homemade, looks like they were made by a cobbler. They don't look like they were pressed in a shop anywhere, and that's fantastic. I really like it. Now we have Daniel Henney playing Lan. Now Lan is Moiraine's warder. He is the warrior that protects her, and we don't have the color shifting cloak. A lot of people have mentioned that, and a lot of people are very upset about it, but we knew this was going to happen because Rafe, the showrunner, had mentioned that it was cost prohibitive. It would be a whole lot of money to have some color changing cloaks just for a few characters, when in fact they could better spend that money elsewhere. Now, I'm okay with it, and I'm a super fan, but I know that some of you watching want everything to be exactly the same, and I'm telling you, you're going to be completely disappointed if you keep thinking that. Think of this as another turning of the wheel. There's going to be a ton of changes, but it will keep the heart, soul of the series. And if you're really upset about a cloak, well, maybe this isn't the show for you. I don't know what to say, because there are much bigger changes than that. But the costume itself is absolutely beautiful, much higher quality than the Emond's Field 5 costumes, which makes sense because Lan is a lord, and very practical looking. It looks like he can fight in that, and we've already seen that in the Lan teaser. He fights in something very similar to this, and it's very cool looking. Then we have Rosamund Pike playing Moiraine. Now, this is her signature blue costume that we've seen all over the place. We've seen it in the Moiraine teasers, as well as some of the leaked set photos, and it is beautiful. Again, much higher quality than the Emond's Field 5 costumes, much better looking. Her boots even are higher quality and better looking, and look at that, there's mud on her. It's fantastic. They're not doing a clean look. They're out in the field. They're in the middle of the woods. They're not going to be immaculate all the time. But something I want to mention about this is on her left hand. Do you see what's there? That is a ring. Now, if you take a look at that ring very closely, and I have zoomed in on it, I didn't want to show the picture here because it kind of gets fuzzy as it blows up, but it looks like there's a big stone set in it, and the stone almost looks blue. So I'm wondering if maybe some of these Ajas have their own colors set into the rings. It's possible. Now, I can't take full credit for this. One of the people over at Watt Series did come up with this, and they did talk about it a little bit in Twitter this morning, and I kind of picked up on that and was like, you know what? It does look that way. That's really very cool. So kudos to you folks over at Watt Series for mentioning that. But really, very cool. I really love Moiraine's costume. And then we have Madeline Madden playing Egwene. Again, super cool. Some very stout Two Rivers wool here as well. Very nice boots. They look like they're strapped on. They don't look like they're, made in a shop anywhere. And again, that signature braid that all women of age wear from the Two Rivers. I really, really like her costume. I really like the way she looks. And can't really see her hands. I'm looking for a ring, so I don't think she's been to the tower yet at this point, which does make sense for where we're at in this series. Episode 6, they haven't even gone to Faldera yet, so she hasn't seen anyone, although she has been practicing with one power at this point. Then we have Marcus Rutherford, who plays Perrin. Now, Perrin is a hulk of a man, and let's face it, Marcus is pulling it off. He is wearing, wow, it looks like he came straight from a forge almost. He doesn't have the leather apron or anything, but that is something 100% a working man will wear, and it looks really very beautiful. Now, I do want to mention that I don't see an axe anywhere on his belt. Whether it was left out for this shot or it's packed away, I don't know, but we don't see that. But Marcus, certainly to me, looks the part of Perrin, and I'm super excited, especially with these costumes. And then finally, we have Yoshiz Stradowski playing Rand al'Thor. Now, sheep herder wearing a sheepskin coat. The irony's not lost on me. And then you have that sword, that hairmark blade, peeking out from inside the cloak, or the coat, I guess. Really, really very cool. He looks the part of Rand to me. Now, I've heard a few people complain that Perrin's taller than Rand in these shots. Again, small changes. They're not going to do forced perspective all the time like they did with Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, just to make sure that Rand is a little bit taller. Perrin's supposed to be a hulking, big man. They're probably going with that. But Rand is still pretty tall, and I love the way he looks. I like the look of Rand. We're going to dive a little bit more in the article. They talk a little bit about Shadar Logoth and how they built the set from scratch for only 15 minutes of airtime, and we all expect to see Shadar Logoth in Season 1, Episode 2, which kind of coincides with some metadata I'm going to talk about right now. Here's that photo blown up, and we get our first good look at Shadar Logoth, and it is glorious. It looks exactly like I pictured when I read the books. And if you notice in the background, those doors, well, they look an awful lot like some church doors that we've seen from leaked set photos from before. So we do know now for a fact that that's where they were filming the Shadar Logoth scenes. So that's pretty cool. If you don't know what that is, take a look back to my older videos. There are some leaked set photos of what I believe to be Shadar Logoth, and I'm pretty sure it's tagged that way. So we have Lan here holding Moiraine. She looks exhausted or hurt. And Mandarb over there on the left. Now, how do I know it's Mandarb? Well, there's some metadata with this photo. And again, I mentioned the episode, and that comes from metadata. The subject and description is Wheel of Time, Season 1, Episode 102. So that's Episode 2. Exterior Shadar Logoth ruins temple. Lan with Moiraine exits temple and races down the street on his warhorse. Very cool. Now there's some tags here. Shadar Logoth ruins, set city destroyed, gloomy horse carry her, Moiraine dummy, Lan, Blue Cloak, Aldeb, Mandarb, and Hedori. Very, very, very cool. I mean, super neat. I mean, just the dark, cool vibes from this. I'm pretty excited about this, and we're going to see this in Episode 2, I believe, and very neat. All right, so then we go on to two other photos in the article. I'm going to talk about them up close here in a second, but basically the article just goes on to really accurately describe the books in such a way that a new reader or a person who hasn't read the books at all would understand what's going on. And this is the first article, and I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm saying this is the first article written by a non-Wheel of Time fan or fan site that really did this series justice. It did a really good job. And again, I've left the article link down below in the description box. Go ahead and read the article and take a look at the pictures they have posted there. Really, really very cool. I'm very excited about it. But I want to dive into these last two pictures because, I mean, they're absolutely glorious. And when we're done that, we're going to talk a little bit about my contest, the Patreon, and the kind of mix-up that happened this morning. All right, again, this is probably my favorite picture out of the bunch. Really, really very cool. I mean, absolutely amazing. We have Logain, played by Alvaro Morte, in the front. He is kneeling in a cage. And then in the background, you have Alana Mosfani, played by Priyanka Bose. And then who I believe to be Claire Perkins, who plays Karine Nagashi. And again, that pronunciation is probably wrong because Rafe pronounced it a different way. And some other people at JordanCon pronounced it a different way. So I'm terrible at pronouncing things. Correct me in the comments down below if I'm wrong on that. Then in the background, you have what I can only assume to be two Red Sisters. Now, we're going to talk about this for a second. I want to talk about a bunch of different things in this photo, but we have the Aes Sedai. We have a green sister in the front, dressed in green. We have two Aes Sedai in the background, dressed in red. I'm going to assume they're Red Sisters. And then you have Claire Perkins there, Karine, who you can't really see her costume, so I can't tell what she's wearing. However, just from this picture alone, I'm going to say that probably for ease of the viewer, they're going to show Aes Sedai mostly in their colors. I mean, let's face it, in the books, they kind of did this anyway. They kind of dressed in the colors of their Aja all of the time, or they wore their shawls with the colors of their Aja. A lot of whites wore white cloaks, white dresses. The yellows wore yellow dresses or yellow shawls. It's just a thing that happened. It's not a big stretch to think they took it a little bit further, which will really help the viewers, in my mind, when they're watching, especially the big battle scenes, recognize different Aes Sedai in their groups in the battle scenes later on in the series, or perhaps even in the first episode or two from the looks of these pictures. But I do like it. I do like the way it looks. And again, the costumes are gorgeous. I don't know what else to say. Look at Alvaro Morte. He is every inch a king, even though he's captured, and that is something said about Logain the whole time. His pride is immense, and look at the look in his face. I believe, and I haven't seen really him in this at all, other than this. He embodies Logain for me, and that's super amazing. Now, there is some metadata for this photo as well, and this is Wheel of Time Season 1, Episode 3. Exit Carolyn Plains, Egwene and Perrin see wagon tracks heading east, friend or foe. So, this is where some of the bone of contention came, because we do know that they were doing some battle scenes in Episode 4, which they believed to be where they captured Logain, and we also know that they were doing some shots in Episode 4 in Gelden, and that was filmed in Spain. Now, Gelden is Logain's home country, and there was a lot of people that believed that was probably where he started becoming the Dragon Reborn. He announced himself, things like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to fit in the timeline that way. It could be a flashback, could be any number of different things. I don't believe the metadata is wrong. The rest of them all seem correct. I believe They probably already captured Logain at this point, and I believe that Perrin and Egwene probably will meet up with this caravan after they leave the Tinkers, or with the Tinkers, recognize that they're Aes Sedai, and travel along with them. Then this caravan will meet up later on with Moiraine, the boys, Lan, and I think that's how they all kind of get together. They go to Tar Valon, or wherever they're going, but I believe they're going to Tar Valon because we've seen some leaked set photos of Tar Valon. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, again, take that with a grain of salt. It's just speculation, pure speculation on my part, but even a broken clock is right twice a day, so that's entirely possible. Again, a supremely gorgeous picture. I'm super excited to see it. Then we have this final picture. Now, this final picture shows Madeline Madden and Yosha Stradowski on a mountain. That's Rand and Egwene on a mountain. And yes, there is some metadata for this one too. This is Wheel of Time Season 1, Episode 1, Exterior Mountain Ridge. Egwene joins Rand. He knows what she's going to do. Now, what could this possibly be from? Could it be they're discussing the fact that she's going to become Nynaeve's apprentice? Could it be the fact that, I mean, really, let's face it, that's the only thing I can think of. That's not something we've really seen a whole lot in the books when they talked about that. We didn't see much of Rand and Egwene before Winter Night. They talked about them a little bit, and they're kind of meshed, and there was some discussion of the backstory, but we didn't really get to see them interact. I'm hoping the show will build their relationship just a bit more, so we get to see more of Rand and Egwene. So when things happen later on, it becomes much more impactful when they get separated, things of that nature. I don't want to go into too many spoilers beyond the first book, but I want to see their relationship built up because, let's face it, it was one of the downsides of the first book that they didn't really seem like a couple. They seemed more like, friends more than anything else. But again, very beautiful shot. The costumes are absolutely amazing. The costumes look very similar to the ones they were wearing in that first picture, which we're going to go back to right now. All right, so all in all, I'm very excited about this article. It did a really good job of showcasing the Wheel of Time. The pictures were beautiful. Now, there's going to be a few questions from different people. First one's going to be the pants. The Aes Sedai all seem to be wearing pants. I think that was an actual choice from the design department rather than divided riding skirts, and I believe there was some talk about that today on Twitter. A lot of fighting, actually, which was really weird thing to fight about pants. But some people were very upset they're wearing pants, but I believe that's intentional. I think it's on purpose because I think it either might look a little bit better on the screen or play a little bit better for the actors and actresses, or the actresses rather, wearing it. I'm not entirely sure, but I do like the choice. I think it stylistically works really well. Second thing I want to mention that I've seen people fighting about today is everyone looks too old. I mean, this, in the book, yes, in the book series, they're much younger than they are. However, Rafe Judkins did go on record to say that if they did cast actors of that age and had them play younger characters, it would feel more YA, like a young adult show, and it's not. He said, unequivocally, this is not a young adult show, so it is a very adult show, and they aged all the actors up on purpose. So all the characters were aged up just a little bit on purpose. So you have the Emmons Field 5. They are not as young as they are in the books. They're a little bit older on purpose, and that is probably so they can put them in more mature situations. Now, we do know they did have an intimacy coordinator on set. I'm going to assume that's probably some of the mature situations they're talking about, that and the gore and fighting and things like that. I think it's all going to be very cool, but a lot more mature than people are thinking. I think some people are going into this thinking, it's just going to be kind of a fluffy fantasy show. I think we're looking at Witcher-level gore and probably Witcher-level nudity. I wouldn't say Game of Thrones level nudity and sex, but at least Witcher level. So it's going to be really, really very cool. So let me know in the comments down below. I've yammered at you folks for quite some time now. Let me know in the comments down below what you folks think of these images and this article. Now, the last thing I want to mention before I go talk about my Patreon and my contest is the release of this. So it did get leaked early this morning. When I say leaked, it was not intentionally put out that early. I don't know if it was a mistake or what happened, but there were photos of the magazine that got leaked, and then the digital copies shortly thereafter were live. And from my understanding, they weren't supposed to be live until much later in the day. And of course, Sarah Nakamura, as well as Rafe Judkins and a couple other people, kind of commented the fact that they weren't going to talk about things that weren't official until they were official. So even though the article was out and about and the digital copies were available, they would not comment on them until the Wheel of Time account retweeted it, and then that seemed like the official launch for this. So I don't exactly know what happened there, but I do know that things probably happened not the way people expected. Either way, we got some really cool stuff today, and it was a true Wheel of Time Wednesday, and I was very grateful for the production and very grateful to Entertainment Weekly for this. It was absolutely fantastic. Super excited about that. Now, before we go, I am running a 10,000 subscriber contest, so if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. All you have to do to be entered is be a subscriber, leave a comment down below and like the video, and that's pretty much it. So those of you who are new to the Wheel of Time, because of this article, those of you who are new to the Wheel of Time, because of people talking about it, or those of you new to the channel who are seasoned Wheel of Time fans, y'all want to subscribe because basically what I'm doing is I'm covering every single aspect about the show, all of the news, leaks, rumors, set photos, castings, everything. I do everything about the show here because I'm a huge super fan, so you're not going to miss a single thing from me. Now, second thing, and well, the last thing I want to mention today is my Patreon. Now, I've said for a long time I wasn't going to do this. However, the channel is growing, and to grow even further, I do need to actually run a Patreon because I need to start supporting the people that are helping me. I need to start building the channel a little bit more. So I do have a Patreon. I've left a link down below in the description box, and you're going to get all the standard cool Patreon things, 24-hour early access to some of my videos, live chats once a week, different things like that. But I'm also going to send you some What Up swag. Each tier of my Patreon has different What Up swag. So if you go to tier 2, you're going to get all the swag from tier 1 and tier 2. It's just the way it works. So if you want some cool What Up swag, go visit my Patreon, help support the channel and the people that help me out so very much, and I would really appreciate it. Now, all that being said, I want to thank you all so very much for sticking with me here to the very end, and here's to many more.